The 91 Stanley Cup winning Pittsburgh Penguins were a very interesting team. They had a 25-year-old superstar, Mario Lemieux, who missed almost 20 games in the regular season, but get this, had 131 points. This guy missed 20 games and still had 131 points. They had a 19-year-old rookie sensation. This team was very interesting for a few reasons. I want to throw them into NHL 17 to see how they stack up against today's NHL. So you can see here 94 offensive rating, 88 defense, and 87 goaltending. So you're going to have a look at this team and you're going to think, whoa, offensively they are stacked. And yes, that's the case, but there's a few reasons why this team is interesting. So throughout the regular season, their record wasn't that good. They were obviously coached by Scotty Bowman, and they had a record of 39, 32, and 9, so just below the 500 mark. This was a back-to-back Stanley Cup win. They were obviously fresh off a cup in 1990, and they made a few changes, which we'll talk about here while going over the roster. So this team, again, very interesting because their regular season wasn't that good. Once the playoffs started, these Penguins hit the ground running, and they did not look back. They ended up beating the Washington Capitals in 7 games, and then in round number 2, they got rid of the Rangers in 6, and then here's where it gets really awesome. They ended up beating the Bruins 4 straight in the third round, and then in the Stanley Cup Finals, they beat Chicago 4 straight. So this team won 8 games in a row en route to their second Stanley Cup in a row. So first line here, you got Kevin Stevens, who is a big left wing sniper. He's 6'3", 230 pounds. He's a big dude, fresh off of a 54 goal season, 123 points. He also had 254 penalty minutes, which is worth noting. And then the man, Mario Lemieux. This guy, man, in my opinion, again, this is just my opinion, the most talented player to ever play the game of hockey. Just as a whole, you know, when you look at skill, you look at defensive rating, you look at everything, in my opinion, Mario Lemieux is number 1. Obviously, points-wise is a little bit of a different story because Lemieux was injured quite often. The guy had cancer and he came back that same year to lead the league in scoring. You can't say enough good things about Mario Lemieux. I mean, he owns the team now, so he is the man. And on Lemieux's right wing, it's not going to be Rick Tocchet, it's going to be the 19-year-old Jaromir Jagr. Now, and he's actually not a rookie. He played at 18, obviously won the cup in 1990, had 13 points in 24 games in that playoff run, and then a year later, being 19 years old, he has 69 points in the regular season, and he had 24 points in 21 games as a second-year vet in the postseason. So a huge part to this team winning the Stanley Cup. On the second line left wing here, we got Joe Mullen, who had 42 goals, 87 points in the regular season. I believe he was injured for a large part of the postseason run, so he didn't really do a whole lot. Ron Francis, now this guy, man, he is so underrated. Ron Francis has something like 1,700 career points, which is crazy. He played for a long time, has like 15 or 1,600 games. This guy played a long time, obviously, with Carolina and with the Hartford organization. He is a nice second line center behind Mario Lemieux, and on the right wing, we got Rick Tocchet. Now, he was a big, giant acquisition for this team at the trade deadline. Coming over from Philadelphia, he had 30 points in 19 games, and he was a big part to them winning the Stanley Cup as well, having 19 points in only 14 games. So he was obviously injured as well. On the third line, we got Sean McEachran here, who was 22 years old when they ended up winning the Stanley Cup. Didn't put up a ton of points, but this guy actually went on to have a pretty decent NHL career. I believe with the Bruins and Ottawa, he scored like 30 goals a few times. And then the old man, Bryan Trottier. Now, obviously, he won a few cups with the New York Islanders back in the day, so he is a nice piece to have here as a third-line center. Now, the old man didn't put up a whole lot of numbers in the regular season, had 29 points, 11 goals, 18 helpers, and 7 in the postseason. So, obviously, his career was coming to an end. He was 35 years old at this time, so nice for him to go out on top there with a Stanley Cup. We got Bob Erie here, who is now, I believe he is one of the announcers for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was a pretty decent piece here on the third line. So for the fourth line here, I really don't know too much about any of these players. Obviously, this Stanley Cup run was a few years before I was even born, so I had to do my research here on what these players were actually like and how their overalls are going to affect them, because I don't know a lot of these players. Obviously, I know pretty much everyone in the top 6 and Bryan Trottier, but everyone else I didn't really know a whole lot about. So Tony Looney, I believe is how you pronounce his his name. He is a left wing grinder. We got Yuri Hrdina, who is actually a big piece of the Czechoslovakian hockey program. He played in the Czech league forever, had a few good years in Calgary. Played on this team. He was a bit older when they won the Stanley Cup. He was 33. And then Jock Calendar. Yeah, Jock is this guy's name. I don't know anything about this guy. He didn't play in the regular season, but he had 12 games in the postseason. So that's their offense. Very, very nice. Defensively, Larry Murphy, Phil Bourque, Paul Stanton, Ulf Samuelsson, Jim Peake, and Kajil Samuelsson. So obviously not having Paul Coffey here really hurts them. Phil Bourque was a decent offensive defenseman, had a couple of back-to-back 20-25 goal years. Larry Murphy was a big piece to this team. He led them on the back end there. He had a really decent year with 21 goals, 56 helpers for 77 points in 77 games. So definitely giving him the 90 overall offensive defenseman. And then Ulf Samuelsson. This guy was famously known for ending Cam Neely's career. That obviously is not a good title to have, but he was pretty decent as well for Pittsburgh. And then Jim Peake. We're going to talk about this guy a little bit during the simulation because I found him to be very interesting. And then in the goaltending department, we have Tom Barrasso and Ken Reggett. Now, Barrasso played for a long time. He played 21 games in the postseason en route to the Stanley Cup. So a very nice team here. The offense is sick. The defense is okay. Obviously, with Paul Coffey, it would have been a lot better, but it's still very, very good. And goaltending isn't the greatest, but you know what? I think Tom Barrasso is going to do just fine for this team. So let's see how this team simulates in today's NHL. We're going to get the first game done against Washington here. We have a nice Ovi versus Mario matchup. One of the best players in the 2000s versus one of the best players in NHL history. So let's go here. First period. Ooh, okay, Justin Williams and Ovi scores on Tom Barrasso. He goes, "Get out of here, Mario, you old man." Period number 2. Okay, 5-1. Holy crap. Wilson, Shattenkirk, and Kuznetsov. Joe Mullen gets the only goal, and we get spanked 6-2. Brian Trottier gets a goal. But this team, I think, isn't gonna simulate that well. And you may be thinking, why? What the hell? This team's stacked. Well, they're big and slow. Obviously, you got Mario Lemieux, who is a tank out there. He is a beast. As I say that, we win 3 in a row. But he's a big dude. He's like 6'4", 230 pounds. You got Kevin Stevens, who's pretty much the exact same build at like 6'3", 230 pounds as well. Jaromir Jagr is a beast. He's close to 220, 230. So they're big dudes up front, a lot of giant guys, and we are 8-5-1 to start off the year. It's not great. It's definitely not a bad record though, 8-6-1. I don't think this team will be as dominant as, say, the Avalanche were, the last throwback team that we did, simply because the Avalanche had a sick offensive core, a disgusting defensive core, and they had Patrick Waugh in net. So obviously the Penguins have a really, really nice offensive core. Their top 6 is crazy. Defensively, it's okay. Could you imagine if this team had Paul Coffey? That would be nuts. But obviously they wouldn't have a player like Rick Tocchet. A few big pieces missing from the 1990 team were Mark Recchi and obviously Paul Coffey, but they traded Mark Recchi in exchange for Rick Tocchet. So that was a big deal, and obviously they traded Paul Coffey to Los Angeles. So if this team had those two players and they didn't have Rick Tocchet, I think they would be much better off in the simulation. But we're not doing bad. We are doing 22, 14, and 3. So definitely not as dominant as our Colorado team, but still they're holding their own right now. I'm also very interested to see how a 98 overall player like Mario Lemieux is going to do against a player like Crosby or Patrick Kane. You know, I'm kind of interested to see how many points he's actually going to put up. We are 26, 23, and 4, so we're slacking a little bit here. But this team, it's just all about the defense for me, because losing Paul Coffey, I would have had him at like 92, 93 overall. He was always in the 70, 80, 90 point range. But this team was a little bit before my time. I wasn't even born yet. I wasn't born for a few years actually, so I unfortunately never got to watch, you know, the prime time Mario Lemieux era. I never got to watch Kevin Stevens. I never got to watch any of those guys, so that kind of sucks for me making this team. I had to guess on a little bit. I had to do my research on what I was going to put players overalls as. We've won a few games in a row here, won 4, and we lose in overtime, then we win back-to-back shutouts. There you go. Okay, so it looks like we found our stride here. Holy crap, we are kicking ass right now. We're dominating. 41, 26, and 8. Wow, okay, March was very, very kind to us. Now, the one player I want to talk about really quickly is Jim Peak. He is our third line pairing defenseman. He is actually South Korean, which is strange. I didn't even know that there was ever a South Korean player in the NHL, and it was him, Jim Peak. Does not have a Korean name at all, so when I clicked on his Hockey DB page, I was a little bit confused, but that's kind of cool. They had a South Korean, Jim Peak. I didn't know that at all, so hopefully you learned something as well. Jim Peak, the South Korean. Let's go ahead here and simulate our last game. We got one more against the Rangers here, so let's go. We got Lemieux versus Matthews, first period. There you go. Tony Looney on the fourth line, I believe. We're out shooting them 12-6. Period number 2. Oh, they come right back. Leo Komarov and JVR, and unfortunately, we lose. Joffrey Lupul gets the game-winning goal, all tied up at 2, and then with 2 minutes left, he ices it there on Tom Barrasso. I think March really saved us because we were not in a playoff position before March, and then we won pretty much every single game in March, and we got Columbus in the first round. So a team that wasn't even around when the Pittsburgh Penguins won the Stanley Cup. We had 98 points this year. Not bad at all. Tied with Columbus actually, but we do have home ice advantage, which is nice. So let's have a look at our regular season here. Wow, no one even cracked 80 points. Rick Tocchet had 78, and Mario Lemieux only had 77, 28 goals, 49 helpers. Wow, what else do you got to do to get numbers out of the simulation here? I put a 98 overall player with I guess he jumped up to 91 now, Jaromir Jagr did, but I put in between Jagr and Kevin Stevens, and no one puts up over 80 points. Very, very interesting. Kevin Stevens was the goal scorer on this team, had 33. I mean, a lot of players had 50 points. We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 players with 50 points or more. Then after that, it really drops off. Larry Murphy was our best defenseman at 36 points. He did have 17 goals though. Very interesting. Joe Mullen at 89 overall only gets 36 points. Bob Erie, who is 84, gets 34. So very, very strange. Phil Bourque didn't do that great. I think it's because the defense really wasn't up to par, I think. I mean, you had like an 80, an 81, you got an 84, so it really wasn't that great defensively. But you know what? We're in the playoffs, so doesn't really matter at all. The 87 overall Tom Barrasso had 2 assists in the regular season, 4 shutouts, a save percentage of .913, and a goals against of 2.52. So really not that great, but not bad either. He had 38 wins, 23 losses, and Ken Reggett went 7-6. So let's hop into the postseason here. Kind of strange that no one put up the numbers that I thought they would. 98 overall Mario Lemieux, and doesn't even crack 80 points. Very interesting. Okay, let's get the playoffs underway here up against the Columbus Blue Jackets. 1-0 win, and then we lose our next 2 games. So we're down 2-1 here. Going to Columbus. Okay, there you go. We get right back into this series here. That is a big, giant win. Okay, we got our backs against the wall here against Columbus. This has been a very, very low-scoring series. 1 goal, 6 goals, 3, 3, and 3. So a very low-scoring series here. We are facing elimination in round number 1 against the Columbus Blue Jackets. Let's get right back into this series, guys, and let's force a game 7 in Pittsburgh. So first period, 0-0. Period number 2, okay, still 0-0. This has been a defensive battle between Bobrovsky, between Tom Barrasso. Oh boy. All right, power play. Come on, Mario Lemieux. We need you, buddy. Big Mario. Oh no, no, no. A 0-0 game in game 6. This is not good. Pretty much the next goal wins. Pretty much the next goal wins here. Wow, this is such a defensive game. Going into overtime. Oh my god. You know what? I'm going to call it. Let's say that Ulf Samuelsson is going to come through with a big blast from the point. The bottom pairing defenseman is going to get a big goal. We are just under 5 minutes in. Oh god. Come on here, someone score. What is this suspense about? A 0-0 game in game number 6, 35-30 are the shots. Oh my god, this one's going right down to the wire. I gotta go ×8 here. Speed it up a little bit. We might be going into double overtime here. And, oh shit, power play. Oh my god, we're going into double overtime. It's going to be over within the first few minutes here. Power play. How can you not score on these power plays? Oh my god. And Scott Hartnell. Wow. A 1-0 double overtime game winner. Holy crap, Scott Hartnell gets rid of the Stanley Cup champion Pittsburgh Penguins in 6 games. That's shocking. I seriously did not think that we were going to get ousted like that. Wow, we've brought 2 powerhouse teams of the past, Colorado and Pittsburgh, and we both get kicked out of the postseason. Colorado was in round 3 by LA, and this time we get bounced in round number 1 by Columbus. Columbus wasn't even a team when Pittsburgh won the cup. I seriously did not see that happening. I'm pretty shocked. The Blackhawks dynasty continues with another Stanley Cup in 2017. So if you want to be a part of the next throwback team build, I'm going to be doing a poll on Twitter once a week. As you can see here, the 91 Penguins won by 1%. It was 26% for the 06 Oilers, 27 for the 2002 Wings, and 28 for the 91 Penguins. So go ahead and follow me at xTechGaming, and I'll see you guys next week with another throwback team build. I can't believe Columbus kicked us out in round number 1. What do you guys think the problem was? I think it was because our defense wasn't that great. We were too heavy on the offense, not enough defense. So personally, that's what I think. Thanks for watching. Let me know who you think I should do for the next throwback team build, and I'll see you guys then.